All right, futures in the green across the board here today. S&P futures up 0.4 plus 0.4%. Dow futures up 0.17%, and the NASDAQ futures up 0.6 or 0.6%. Let's take a look at some cues from the last session here. Gains in real estate, utilities, and communication services stocks led most sectors on the S&P 500 to a positive close on Wednesday, while materials and industrials bucked the overall market trend and closed lower. Among major earnings reports on Wednesday, Bank of America and Morgan Stanley both topped street expectations. And as mentioned, Morgan Stanley said that the IPO and investment banking pipeline looks robust. Something to keep under your hat for early 2026. Investors are also awaiting earnings results from Charles Schwab, which we just got here this morning, Travelers, and U.S. Bancorp also today. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve's latest Beige Book report revealed that tariffs implemented by President Trump's administration are translating to higher costs for businesses, with the financial burden increasingly being passed on to consumers. We need this spooky music for October and Halloween to go along with that. The 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.02%, and the 2-year bond was at 3.5%. Remember, it was just several weeks ago where we were hearing that the Treasury yields, especially the 10-year, was really going to creep up if we kept getting cuts. So far, that is not what we've seen. Now, we do have some stocks in focus here today. Salesforce, ticker CRM, jumped 4.01% as it set a revenue goal of over $60 billion by fiscal year 2030, not including any contribution from Informatica. The target suggests an organic compound annual growth rate of over 10% from fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 30. CRM maintained a stronger price trend over the short term, but a weak trend in the medium and the long terms with a robust growth ranking. This has me wondering, we've seen Tim set up several of these. This has me wondering if it's got an intact short-term trend, no intact medium or long-term trend, and high growth. Maybe we're starting to turn the corner for another uptrend here. That's Salesforce, ticker CRM. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise also makes this list, ticker HPE. It tumbled 9.19% as its third quarter results showed record revenue thanks to AI demand, while strategic restructuring costs compressed the company's profit margins. Charles Schwab, ticker SCHW, was 1.94% higher ahead of its earnings before the opening bell. Analysts estimate earnings of $125 per share on revenue of $5.99 billion. Now, we did get a 131 EPS beat. We did get 131 on the EPS. That beat the 125 estimate. We also had 6.13 billion in sales. That beat the 6 billion sales estimate. So a beat on the top and the bottom line. Charles Schwab trading up here in the pre-market, closed at 94, currently trading at 98 and change. Ticker JB Hunt, ticker JBHT, that jumped 12.44%. The options were implying a 10% move. JB Hunt beating that after reporting better than expected third quarter earnings and sales results. Earnings of $176 per share beat the consensus estimate of $147 per share, and revenue came in at $3.05 billion, which beat the street estimate of $3.02 billion. U.S. Bancorp, ticker USB, shares were up 0.24%. Shares were 0.24% lower ahead of its earnings before the opening bell. Analysts estimate earnings of $113 per share on revenue of $7.16 billion. We actually got 122 on the EPS, which beat the 113 estimate, and we also saw 7.3 billion, which beat the 7.16 billion estimate. So another beat on the top and bottom line for ticker USB.